Hey everybody, welcome to the Real United States, and welcome to our next installment of On This Day. A lot of significant things happened in 1968 and 69 and into the early 70s, and so I'm sort of doing this series as a celebration of the 50th anniversary. Half a century, I think, deserves some notice of these events, and today's a V. Today is Inauguration Day. January 20th is Inauguration Day on presidential election cycles every 4 years. And so today is the 50th anniversary of the inauguration of our 37th President of the United States. Wait for it. Richard Milhous Nixon. Now, probably most of you, whether you were alive then or not, or you're younger, know that name. And the reason being, of course, is because President Nixon is the only president in American history to resign the office of the presidency. We've had several assassinated, but he's the only person to voluntarily give up the office. And that, of course, haunted him the remainder of his life, and his legacy is haunted by that as well. However, for those of us who are old enough to remember the Nixon administration, his resignation was probably the best thing for the nation, because then, as is today, you have one standard deviation from the mean, about 66% of the population that are, a little left or a little right. And then you got the other third that are spread up, a sixth on the other side, that are more than one standard deviation from the mean, shall we say. And those two groups have been like this for time and memoriam, and are today, and will continue to be so. And so that became so heated about Nixon that he resigned in order to allow the nation to heal. Now, I digress a little bit. Nixon was elected in November of 1968. I remember the day after Election Day very vividly. I remember the announcement. I don't remember quite so much about the inauguration. I remember seeing him sworn in, that's about it. But I do remember these times, and obviously, so I was not quite 10 years old. And he was in office for 5 years-ish, roughly. So from the time I was 9 until I was 14, I guess, almost 15, he was the President of the United States. So this is a period where I have good memories of what was happening. Certainly, people my age at that time were very involved in watching the political process. I don't know if young people are so much today. If 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds are watching the political process, I would think so. It's everywhere. It's on TV, and it's everywhere on social media. But anyway, we did. So, was Nixon a crook? Yeah, maybe. But what brought Nixon down was trying to cover up for his friends. His friends had broken into the Watergate Hotel, the Democratic National Headquarters that were housed at that time in the Watergate Hotel, and you see here, I actually did an episode about this a couple of years ago. This is me in front of the Watergate Hotel. And so he was almost assuredly going to be impeached. Now, impeachment is an act of the Congress that says we can try the president for a crime, and the crime probably would have been, I don't know, obstruction of justice or, conspiracy to commit something. But these guys broke in and did a bunch of wiretapping and espionage on their rivals. by today's standards, to me, it seems kind of, lame. I mean, it's like, what if you do? That's what political parties do. They spy on each other and try to find ways to either make the other guys look bad or find an advantage to make them look good. That's what they do. Both sides. I mean, I'm not taking sides on this. That's what political parties do. So, does that qualify him as a crook because he tried to cover up? And that's probably the least egregious of Nixon's transgressions. It was during the Nixon. A lot of things happened in this period. That's why I'm doing this whole On This Day series. Nixon set in motion from before he even took office the process of making amends, reopening diplomatic relations with the nation of China. China fell to the communists in, I believe, 1949. And pretty much at that point, the United States recognized Taiwan as the official government of China, and the People's Republic of China, which is mainland China, we didn't recognize. It wasn't that we necessarily had a falling out with them. We did not recognize the People's Republic of China as the legitimate government of China. So there was very strained, at best, relations with them, and we had no diplomatic relations. That's what I'm looking for with China from, like I say, late 1949, 1950, right in there, until Nixon began to repair those diplomatic relations. And so he met with, briefly, the chairman, Mao Zedong. And I'm sorry about my pronunciation. That's the way it goes. And began the whole process of repairing diplomatic relations with China, which he did manage to ultimately do in his first administration. However, and I don't normally tender opinions in these videos, but I'm going to. This set in motion what I believe was the economic reform of China. The shift from, although they had a communist government, they shifted from a communist economy to an open market economy, a free market economy, a capitalist economy, if you will. And so his actions set up what would create the trade situation, we'll call it, that we have with China today. And not only the trade situation, but of course the economic situation. It's very hard to explain, but a lot of our debt, our debt, is owed to China. When we sell securities, the government sells securities to raise money, and then they pay off those securities with the taxes. Is actually how it works. And many of those securities, the bonds and bills and notes, China owns. They bought them. So, which is arguably not a good situation, but at any rate, this all was set in motion by Nixon almost immediately after he took office. I think that he took office today, 50 years ago today, and in July, I believe it was, he met with the Chinese officials and started this whole process in motion. A lot of things happened in the summer of '69, by the way, which we will get to when their anniversary dates come up. The lunar landing, of course, first man on the moon, and what was going on in Vietnam. There were some significant things that happened in Vietnam. Okay, of course, there were significant things that happened in Vietnam in the summer of the 70s, but towards the end or after the end of his administration. See, Nixon got elected largely on promising the nation, I will get us out of Vietnam and I will do so and save face. So he started troop withdrawals because what had happened, there were 30,000 people that had been killed in Vietnam between 1961 and 1969, I believe. And about half of those, about 15,000 of those, were in 1968. So a lot of people were dying. There was an election going on. He said, hey, I'll get us out of Vietnam and I'll save face doing it. And he did start the drawdown, the withdrawal. It wasn't until during what would have been his second term in office that we actually finally got out of, and it was actually after he had resigned from office. He had resigned from office in 1974, and it wasn't until July of 1975 that we got the last of the troops out during the Ford administration. And of course, the famous fall of Saigon, which was a disaster, but anyway. So a very significant presidency, and in fact has been called, one of the 5 most consequential presidencies of the United States. Yeah, he had a huge impact on the nation, not only during his administration, but after that. There was prior to Nixon's administration, it was illegal pretty much to own gold. I mean, you could own gold jewelry, but you could not own gold bullion or gold coins. Prior to this, well, Nixon opened up gold to the free markets again, and wow, all kind of weird things happened. Boy, howdy, I want to tell you, between the time that happened and 1979, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market on silver, and gold and silver both went to the moon by themselves, there was a lot of financial weirdness in that period. So that was another huge impact. The gold had been taken out of the market when Franklin Delano Roosevelt took office. I mean, he took office again January, and in May, he pulled the gold out of circulation. Nixon turned that all around, and the economy did a lot of strange things. A lot of people made a fortune, and I imagine a lot of people lost their butt. But anyway, so there was so much about his presidency that is overshadowed by the scandal of Watergate, which was, like I say, he lied. Whoop-de-doo. What president has not maybe been less than completely forthright? I don't think there's ever been one. It happens. You do things for political reasons, you do things for national security reasons, and sometimes you just do things to cover your own butt. I mean, it happens. It's just human nature. It shouldn't overshadow all the really significant good and bad things that Nixon did. He didn't open up relations with China, by the way, because of economic reasons. He opened up relations with China to drive a wedge between China and Russia, who are both communist nations. And you got to realize this is a period of history when this was the height of the Cold War, folks. I mean, we were, Beverly and I were trained in duck and cover in case, you were in school and there was a nuclear strike. I mean, 1969, he takes office. We're only talking, 6 years or so? 1964 was when Dr. Strangelove was released, the movie, which was a parody on nuclear war, but I mean, it did tell you something about how nutty people figured that the powers that be were when it came to nuclear power, and Nixon, in fact, exploited that in what became known as the madman theory. It's a political theory where you portray the leader of state, in this case the president, as being, maybe a little unbalanced, and therefore hostile nations are more likely to come to the table for negotiations. It's a real thing. You look up madman theory, it's out there. And he exploited that. So he was president in a time of just unbelievable social turmoil. The protests that you see on the National Mall, where there's, like 500,000 people holding up signs saying "Get us out of Vietnam," and the whole culmination of Kennedy's challenge to land a man on the moon, and then the fall of Vietnam. It was an incredible time. So anyway, I have probably rambled on long enough. There's, so much about his administration that we can talk about, but anyway, today is the anniversary of the day that it all began, half a century ago today, that Richard Milhous Nixon became our 37th president. So, wow, what a time. They say 1969 was a year of just unbelievable things, and we're going to celebrate those 50th anniversaries as they come up. I hope you enjoyed this little visit down memory lane. You got questions or comments? Leave in the comments section down below. I will do the best I can to answer them. I love hearing from all of you. I try to get back to everybody I can. If you're new here, welcome. Consider thinking subscribe to come along for the adventure, because we got lots more to show you. And as always, folks, well, thank you for watching.